right, so today our topic is loss of a loved one, loss of relationships, loss of normalcy. So we could just get into it and just start talking about losses that we've had. For me, it was definitely Nana. That was like, it was a major blow, and it was kind of crazy because we had lost someone before, like Mrs. C, her close friend, and I was kind of young. I was like maybe like 6 or 7, and I knew what death was, but I didn't really understand like where'd she go. With Nana, I was 17, around that age.
Yeah, right in your senior year of high school.
Yeah,
right?
It was the summer before.
I was senior year of college.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I remember. I would always talk. I would talk to her like every week or so or something like that on the phone while I was at college.
Right.
And and I remember I think we were coming back because it was during the summer when that happened.
I remember we were coming back from my green team program.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you were out there. Yeah.
I was in Stony Brook, and you guys were bringing me home, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then got home, and then Dad told me that she was in the hospital, and I was like, what? Random.
Yeah.
Like what?
It was so random.
Yeah. Right. I know.
It was crazy.
As a matter of fact, right after Nana's funeral, we went to California because you were going to California, to for school for the semester.
Yeah.
And it was just such a nice. Like it was perfect for us because we all went.
Right. It just so happened to work out to where everyone could go.
Like the fact that we were like it was immediately.
It was like
the next day.
Right. We came back.
We drove home.
We drove home from
Georgia,
Savannah,
and then flew out that next morning. Yeah. That's what we needed because. As far as with me with death, I can remember. I think my first time really dealing with it was when my grandmother died. And that was a whole fiasco because we were late getting to the funeral, and we got down to Georgia, and my mom, she wilded out because we was late. She busted up into the cemetery.
It was one of those stereotypical.
Oh my God! It was a whole thing.
Nana.
Running, don't put her in the ground. me and Jason are like, the whole time driving down there. It's like, oh my God, driving crazy. But so we dealt with that. But then obviously when Mom passed, that was the major situation. I've dealt with things like I had a good friend of mine that died when we were in Amityville. He was 21, I think. And he lived right across the street, and he died in a car accident. And that was crazy. Yeah. I can remember holding it together until this one moment when I was just like standing on the porch. The funeral, the whole bit, Yeah. And it was we were at his house across the street, and I was standing on the porch, and I guess I just lost it. It was crazy. And that's things like that, and that's what happened.
Right.
That is it's kind of crazy how something like that happens in terms of it's a site. It's like it's a familiar place. It's like you're on the porch, and that's where you know where that person is.
Right.
Sight,
Exactly.
smell, all that kind of stuff.
It was just crazy, and I remember that with my grandma. I love my grandma. I can remember with my friend though, and that was that before? That was after my grandmother. I was sad with my grandmother the whole bit. I was feeling but I remember like really feeling bad was when he died. Like really like going through it. Like I said, I went through it with my grandmother, but
Right.
I think when you're younger, you process stuff differently.
Yeah.
Right. And she was sick for a while. I remember she was in the hospital. She was sick for a while. He died like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right.
The suddenness of it.
The suddenness of it. And then obviously.
How old were you when your grandma passed?
Oh man, I don't know. I could have been like 9, 8, 9, something like that. Maybe even younger. Might have been 7, but yeah.
And she was only in her
She was in her 50s.
50s, you said.
Yeah, mid to late 50s, and I thought she was older because she had been in just because you think older people, people old, but she she was going through dialysis and everything, so she was sick at the time anyway. But
right, yeah. For me, it was definitely my grandmother. Yeah, my grandmother passed away when I was about 12 years old, and I was really close to my grandma. So, that was, and she had been sick. Yeah. But the thing is, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, and then she had lung cancer. She was okay, Yeah. And then once she went in for surgery, they had a surgery, I guess, to remove, whatever the tumor was or whatever. Right after that, she went downhill.
So she was dealing with the cancer,
yeah,
so to speak, I guess.
Right, yeah.
As
far as I know.
As far as you know.
As far as I know, right.
And then
right,
boom,
right.
it took a turn for the worse.
Yeah, it took a turn for the worse. And she was
Wow.
in the hospital. She was on oxygen, and she went through chemo, and you know, it was a bad situation, and that was very upsetting. And I remember, you know, because you guys were talking about dreams. You know, I do remember having dreams of my grandma, even when I got older, where she was like, she really wasn't dead. She was hiding. Like, but then you like you know,
those
like,
dreams where you like you.
And I'm like,
dream,
oh my goodness, she really is not dead.
Yeah, I've had a few of those dreams where it's like a
Yeah.
normal day. It feels very
Right.
real.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, she's not here anymore.
Right, it's like you're doing regular things like we're here on a Sunday eating dinner or something. It's nothing crazy. It's just a regular situation, and then you know you like wake up and it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
She, you know, she's not here.
Yeah, that's not the case.
It's crazy.
It is.
Yeah, that's happened to me a lot.
Yeah.
Where you dream as if she's here and you're thinking everything is, you know,
normal.
You don't want to wake up.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you've experienced a bunch
so
of people
real.
in your family as far as loss in terms of like your
Yeah. My
grandparents.
my aunt, who we were, I mean, real close to, my Aunt Pat. Yep.
Heard good stories about her.
Yeah. 3 of my uncles. You know, my papu, you know, Grandma Angel, my maternal grandmother, you know, so it's been, it's, I didn't realize that until I'm saying, wow. So, and my cousin was killed when we were in Massachusetts. So
it's a trip when young people die. It's like, especially nowadays when you hear about a certain person dying, like, you know, if they're like a, you know, well-known person or whatever, and they're like 20, and I'm 27, and it's like, I'm 7 years older than you. You should not be gone.
Yeah.
Like it's sad when
you shouldn't be gone. Right.
It's sad when a child is, you know, when a child passes for sure, like always. But like, I don't know. There's something weird about like
a little
early
closer
20s.
to your
somebody like in their prime.
Yeah,
so
and
speak, right?
Exactly. Yeah, someone in their prime.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you had all this stuff that, you know, that you should have been doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then you're gone. Like, I know one death that really hit me hard was Anton Yelchin, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He was Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember hearing about his accident, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, that not too many celebrities hit me hard, but that one just was like, oh wow, you're like close to my age and you had so much potential.
Right.
Yeah.
With that potential, that's what it did. Like Amy Winehouse when
Right.
she passed,
Yeah.
it was like,
What?
are you kidding me? Like
Right.
you had so much going for you, you had
Yeah.
so much to do, and it's like when the life is snuffed out early on, it's like it's a shame.
It is. It really,
upsetting.
really is.
Are you behind on your mortgage? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Is your house underwater because you owe more than it's worth? Are you considering trying to get a loan modification on your own? Did you know that less than 5% of people who tried on their own actually got a modification? At the Mortgage Modification Helpline, we know the rules and regulations banks don't want you to know about, and we've helped thousands of people stay in their homes. Are you struggling to keep up? Are you past due on your mortgage? If so, we can help. It doesn't matter if you have bad credit, been turned down, or if you're currently getting the runaround from your lender. The call and consultation is free, and it only takes a few minutes to find out if we can help. So call the Mortgage Modification Helpline today, and let's get your loan modified into one you can afford.
Please call 800-916-1350. That is 800-916-1350.
So, you know, especially with COVID-19, you know, when talking about loss, you know, it just seems so, you know, we're talking about celebrities and all of that, but on TV, you see every single day that number, you know, and they say the number, and I think they do a pretty good job of saying these are people, not just numbers, you know, so people, like right now, you know, are dealing with so much loss.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's crazy, right? Because even before this COVID-19 situation, right, I used to think, like when you think in terms of, like you're saying, numbers, right? So we just talked about just one individuals.
Yeah.
I'm talking about your aunt. I'm talking about, I'm talking about my mom.
Right.
I'm talking about grandparents or whatever, friends.
Yeah.
One person, right? And how that impacted your life, right?
And
so
how many people, right? It impacts,
so then,
right?
Right. How many people it impacts? So when you think about like wars or things that happen here and overseas and all, and people just think about pandemics that we're going through now, right? And you think about how they talk about death. It's like each individual person is a traumatic loss to a bunch of people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just gets talked about, and that's just one person.
Right.
And
It's
you
a
think
ripple,
about,
it's like a whole ripple.
and you think about thousands of people getting killed. Like how people could be so callous when they think in terms of people and things that might affect them, they may cause them to die or whatever the case may be.
Right.
It's like,
This-
how can
You
you
affect
even...
many lives.
I mean, that's
Right,
just
and that's
insane.
when, like I said, they try to do a good job of saying they're people,
Right.
Right.
but at the same time, showing that amount or that number, what's the reason for that? Because the people who lost someone, they know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, I
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
specifically talking about what they're saying. I was just talking about in general.
Right.
I'm not necessarily talking about the COVID and how they talk about
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
I'm just talking about in general. Like I said, even before the COVID,
Yeah, right, right.
how people can, some certain people can callously
Right.
just not think about people as a specific life that's going to mean the impact that's
Right,
going to be
because-
It
a
can
loss
depend,
to. It's just
It could depend on the person's job too. Like, I mean, if your job is to, like, let's say the people who were talking about COVID, and your job is to every day talk about the number. I think you have to sort of detach. You have
Yourself
to
from it.
Yeah, you have to sort of detach yourself from it at least at some point, or you're just going to be destroyed all the
Right.
time.
oh no
You know
That's
question.
what I mean?
true.
That's what I guess I'm coming from the perspective of policymakers
Yeah.
who do things that affects people's lives.
Yeah.
You
Like
understand what I'm saying?
Flint,
Like
water
Flint.
and Flint.
Yeah.
Right. Good example.
Right.
Yeah.
That's gonna cost people lives.
Right. Yeah.
And just
It's like-
when-
And it's
yeah.
like,
The
oh,
disconnect is just
Right.
insane to me
Yeah.
that you don't
Like you
think
said.
wars, healthcare,
Right.
Yeah.
right? In the terms of health, everybody, not to get political, but just, everybody being able to have healthcare. People don't care. People are gonna die.
Yeah, and it
But,
affects so many people. It affects
so
them
many
mentally,
people, but-
physically.
Yeah.
It affects every aspect of their lives. And when you think about an individual person, just think about the amount of people that would show up to their funeral and be upset about that. Like, that's one person multiplied by, like,
Yeah.
maybe like 100 people,
Right,
like it could get
absolutely.
so broad and
It
be
gets
as a
so
ripple
broad.
effect
Yeah.
to where it affects that many people.
I guess it's loss of empathy. I can't see how anybody who truly lost somebody in their life can do things or do things in a way that you really don't that it just doesn't phase you.
It's it's so interesting how
crazy.
we kind of put value
Yeah.
on life.
On one
Of
over
one
another.
over another.
Totally.
Right,
You know?
right.
I was in a workshop and we were talking about it was a great workshop. We were talking about tragedies in schools because in schools you have to handle things in a certain way.
yeah.
And one of the things that the speaker was saying was we should not have memorials in schools. Period.
Right.
No matter who it is.
I've heard that
Because there's a couple of reasons.
I got you.
The students leave eventually. So you have a memorial for a student, let's say. The students leave, they don't have to look at that memorial. The teachers are always there.
Yeah.
They have to look at that memorial every day. And you don't know how that impacts them. The other part of it is I'm going to put a memorial up for someone who was killed in a car accident, but I'm not going to put a memorial up for somebody who overdosed on heroin, let's say.
Yeah.
Right.
So why are you valuing someone's life over someone else's?
Yeah.
Right.
Based on the way that they
based
died.
right.
That's
A
it.
memorial
Based
in a
on
park
the-
is fine because
Right.
people choose to put it. You can go to the park or not.
Right.
Right.
Schools are very
Yeah,
different. It's a
right.
permanent.
I know
place.
when speaking, we had a student who was a year older than me. He had graduated at that point, but he passed away from a heroin overdose. And what we did was, I was a part of the Christian club, Ignatius Club at my school. We went out. We usually pray in the office, but we went outside by the flag and we just held hands and said like a silent prayer for him, which I thought was nice.
And that is nice.
Not a physical
absolutely.
memorial,
It-
but just a little something to acknowledge.
Acknowledgement,
Even though he died
yes,
from a heroin overdose,
yes.
that didn't make
right.
him.
His life is not less important than someone
Right.
else.
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of trips me up about like loss and things like that. Like I know people have their different theories about what happens afterwards, and things like that. And the way I like to think of it, like we talked about dreams and how people visit us in our dreams. I like to think that they're up somewhere, nice. And they come in our dreams for a visit every once in a while. That's how I like to think of it.
The afterlife.
Yeah. That's how I like to think of it. So.
Like the Long Island Medium. Excuse me? Shout out to Teresa.
But I don't know. My whole at least thinking on it is like, the whole thing of matter is not created or destroyed. Some part of us, I don't know what part of us, I would imagine, can't be destroyed. Whether you think it's a soul or whatever it is.
Okay.
Just like we don't. Things can't get destroyed altogether. So whatever happens, you may become, space dust floating into the ether.
But all matter is not destroyed.
Yeah, all matter is not destroyed. So I imagine whatever energy that we, whatever energy that we got goes somewhere.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I have a hard time believing that something doesn't happen after this. Like I know when Nana died, I remember we were on the track. You were helping me train for preseason volleyball, and I was doing a sprint, and I heard Nana say, like she always did, go Miya, go Miya. I know I heard her, so I have a hard time believing that there's not anything after.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe that too.
Right, yeah. And Teresa?
Wow. Oh boy.
But and it's also about creating, how to get through that too, and how to get over a loss. And I think that is different for people also. Different people, not get over it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say get over it.
That's a strong word.
But how to cope.
How to deal, right?
Yeah.
How to
people
normalcy.
Do it in different. People deal with it in a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's I was listening to I was watching a show, but it's a show that takes stuff off a podcast, I think. So essentially, I was watching a podcast, and they were talking about, and they had a person there that was talking about death, essentially. Talking about everything. Everyone goes through this. It's not something that we should be fearful of. It's like it's a part of things. When things sort of happen here. Sometimes a thing comes in and it goes away. That's just a constant of life. That's
change is the only constant thing.
Exactly. It's like everything. Everything has its time, and then it goes, and then it sort of goes away.
Right.
But those feelings always stay there. That the love between your mom or grandmother, your grandmother, aunt, all that stays with you for as long as you're around, and that and again in terms of matter not being created or destroyed, whatever that energy is.
It's somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere, just sort of in us.
It's a good way to think about it.
It is a good way to think about it. It makes me think of Coco, right?
Oh,
The movie Coco.
Market, I blame you for I can't with that movie. Oh my god.
Because
crying like
you were
think about Coco
too.
is similar. In the sense that you have pictures up of people. After I saw that movie, I'm putting pictures of everybody up because because like you said, that energy, and I think it also goes into the legacy piece too, and keeping stories of people alive. I remember I went to a funeral. One of my coworkers, her husband passed away, and the rabbi was saying, take a piece of the person who passed on. So if it's something that this person did that you remembered, take a piece of that and incorporate that into who you are. And I thought that was so powerful because it kind of lets the people kind of live on in a certain way.
So youth. The opportunity to see what it looks like and be a part of it.
It's different, I think, when the losses appear. You know, and we had a loss of a peer, a really good friend. You know, Jeremiah's really, one of his best friends passed away, and I think it was a little bit, different in the sense of how
it hits different.
It hits different, exactly.
Definitely hits different.
Exactly.
Especially when you see them day to day.
Every day, every day. So it's just, it's one day, you know what I'm saying? You go off to work or whatever, and the next day they're not there. It's like crazy. It's like sudden, especially with the sudden deaths. It's crazy because I don't know. It's, with him, I wasn't even able to really fathom what was going on until the funeral. Because it was just so unreal.
Like it's really unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I remember when you were on the phone because Jeremiah lost a good friend, one of somebody I used to work with, and they called you and they were like, oh, Ray is, something happened to him and he might not make it. And when you relayed that information to me, I'm like, what are you it didn't register. It really didn't register.
And with loss, I think there's always an element of disbelief because it's just such a change from what you know.
Right.
And you can't really wrap your head around this sudden, or sometimes not sudden. Well, still, it could feel sudden change.
Yeah. And it's in your normal. It changes something like your normal routine.
Right.
Yeah. And there's something about a loss that impacts you in a real way. And really just you're going this way and then you veer somewhere else. The loss also not even in death, but a loss of the way things used to be.
So what are you thinking of in terms of that?
One of the things that I'm thinking about is when the kids went off to college, right? So I remember when Marcus went away to college, it was traumatic. I mean, all things are relative, but it was traumatic.
All things are relative.
Remember we driving off, you were broke down.
I held it together.
But when we got in the car
but when we got in the car, I let loose. I don't think we even talked to each other the whole way home.
Wow. A mass pipe or something.
Yeah.
Where you were breaking down.
Right, because it was the loss of my little boy. You because with kids, you're there with them all the time. Right. You know their actions, kind of. You know what they're doing, their routines, and so now you just
facilitate their routine.
Exactly. Now they're just off.
For themselves. I
don't like that. I did not like that. Right. So Marcus, he left. I was crying. I cried when he was a senior and we dropped him off.
Yeah, that was
because he went to California. We talked about that a little earlier. He went to California for that semester, the fall semester, and then the second semester in the spring he went back to Boston. We dropped him off, and I was crying. He's
going to be home in a couple of months.
He's going to be home in a couple of months. And then when Miya went to college, I cried for literally a whole week. It was the loss. It was a loss of my babies.
We're here for you. We're here for you.
What was funny about when I left for college or whatever. You remember that movie that came out just before I went to college?
Oh my god.
the year 2010.
Are you talking about Toy Story?
I'm talking about Toy Story.
10 years ago.
Traumatic.
Speaking of
that was traumatic too.
Speaking of losses, but sort of in a more fictional sense, but still like a loss. What was interesting about that is it was a loss of a relationship. The toys losing the relationship with Andy. Yeah, with their owner. Which is trying to. It's interesting in terms of how fictional losses sort of change. Like we were talking about Coco earlier before.
I remember. You were talking about movies. I remember a scene in a particular movie that really hit me in terms of loss was Boys in the Hood. That scene at the end when Ice Cube walks off and it says that he died 2 weeks later and he just disappears off the screen. So it was
eerie.
Eerie. Yeah.
I was like, man, that was terrible.
It hits you a certain way.
Yeah, it hits you a certain
Definitely.
way. So,
I know a movie that does that for me is Soul Food. Probably because with that movie, Big Mama, when she died, I was like,
You were traumatized.
I was traumatized.
What you mean, Big Mama died?
I was like, are you kidding me? And the thing also too is that she, reminded me of Nana. And
Right,
I saw the movie obviously before Nana passed,
she passed, right?
but it just made me be like, this
is messed up.
This is tragic.
Why?
COVID is it changes our routine in instant.
Definitely.
And
our whole routine. Everybody's whole
everybody.
routine.
And it's not like
everyone's
New
touched.
York. It's not United States. It's the whole world.
Regardless of how shut down you may be, the routines are changing.
Routines are changing. Things are going to be that it's the loss of your normal routine.
Right.
Things and we had talked about COVID-19 before, but when 9/11 happened, we changed. This has even greater impact.
Oh, absolutely.
The way that you communicate, the way that you interact with people, the day-to-day.
Buffets are gone.
They should be. They should be.
I love buffets.
Okay,
in general,
they should be.
Let's not go there.
I was actually talking to your mom about this morning, I think. Like stores, certain stores, like even like major department stores, when this quote unquote gets to know, are not going to be there. They're not going to be there. They're going to go out of business because right now it's really hitting them hard. They were on a, dangling by a string at before.
Yeah.
That's true.
They're not going to be around. Like a Macy's may not be around.
Oh,
I mean, certain
that's
things.
Think
about it like this, like the mall. Think about
Sears.
Roosevelt Field, right? It's shut down.
That's a big mall.
The malls, all these department stores, there's nobody's been in a department store in like, what is it going on? It'll be 2 months soon.
It'll be,
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, how can you survive that?
How can they survive that?
So how can you survive that, and what is it going to look like on the other side? Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when it comes to loss and things like that, how would you guys say that you guys cope? Or what are some good ways on how to cope and deal with certain losses and things like that? I know for me, talking it out, getting my emotions out, having a good cry helps me because afterwards I always feel better. So I know that's how I can deal with it in the best way that I know how.
Yeah.
So what would you guys say? I know you had a good point about in terms of knowing that energy transforms into different things and you still have the memories of the people and the things that you've had, in the previous. So I like that. So what else would you say with that?
I mean, I guess just more to that point in terms of like memories, it's, I guess sort of to your point also in terms of like talking about it. What's good is, sharing those memories with other people, remembering the good times, shoot, you could write a memoir or something to like, a person's life, just keep them in your thoughts, or keep whatever loss that you have, just always sort of internalize it. Tell, your kids, your grandkids, I remember when this happened, and you keep that person sort of like alive, and I think in that way, they're always there with you,
Yeah, exactly. And then we're fortunate enough with, the people that we've lost that have been close to us that we had those moments.
We had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun. There's not any time that I see a crab, or we're eating crabs, I'm gonna think of Nana. Like this, so it's those certain things that they did or that they said that you're always gonna keep with you, and we are so blessed that we've had a lot of those memories.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in terms of me, I would just say it's just a one day at a time type of thing. But I will say that, don't let anybody tell you how to grieve or how to deal with, you got to do
what feels right.
What feels right. You got to deal with it how you can deal with it. And, take it one day, 1 week, 1 hour, if necessary at a time because,
Yeah.
Everyone's grieving process is different.
And that's all you can do.
That's all you can do.